Ideally, we identify ourselves in relation to the pleasure we get from life. The more pleasure you get from different things taking place in your life, the more efficient and interesting your life will be, and the more interesting you will be for other people. The more interesting and easy it will be for you to choose with whom you will communicate. And the more you're prepared to lose, if you're not going to have it, let it be, and to what extent you will accept with gratitude any possible options that may take place in your life. Having said that, you will know exactly what you want, but you know that you are against it if it won't make you happy, and you won't get pleasure from that. Then, actually, everything combined will give you the opportunity to identify yourself with interest, novelty, and the manifestation of the states of sincerity and honesty in relation to what is going on. And if you additionally learn to speak out and admit what you are feeling, if it will then show in your actions, when I once made a decision to play honesty, it appeared to be very hard, because when you are trying to be honest, when you are daring yourself, when you switch on your ambitions, then this honesty leads you to certain rules in which you do not feel free, but at the same time, you may achieve a lot. And by a lot, I mean endless opportunities. I want to speak about 3 things, maybe more later, that will be useful to you. When we honestly admit what we have, and honestly admit what we want, honestly admit to what extent we believe that it is possible, and then, honestly comprehending our resource, just do with pleasure what we would like to get in this life. And when we do it without haste, and when we are able to identify and say it as it really is, and see whether there is love when we say that, to that extent, we very rapidly change ourselves. The principle of every person is that when you are in the flow, and that flow creates conditions for us to be what we will be, not what we want to seem. When you are embarrassed, when you are afraid, when you feel shy, when you do not feel like speaking in public, when you do not feel like doing certain things in public places, which people normally don't do in such places, like singing, reciting poems, dancing, doing exercises, it shows that you are dependent on the opinion of other people, and it will be extremely difficult for you to implement your desires, goals, and tasks you set for yourself. At the same time, it will be extremely difficult for you to do so if you can generally quite easily sing, recite poems, dance, perform push-ups, do physical exercises. If at that moment, when you do that you feel proud of doing in front of other people, and you're cool. Did you get that? So there are 2 extremes. When you do not allow yourself, you are afraid and scared. You adapt, you endure, you hesitate, you block your development. And when you do that, but feel proud of being cool enough to do that, and only when you do it naturally, quietly, easily, and with pleasure, will you manage it more or less. But when you overcome yourself on the left or on the right, when you overcome either shyness or pride, your level of achieving something will be leaps and bounds higher than when you just manage it. When you have an inner conflict, when you are overcoming, when you have inner tension, then the efficiency of what you get is leaps and bounds higher than when you do it just quietly and easily. Only after you overcame that, achieved that quiet and easy state, will you get to the next level which you were to get to, and there you will have to overcome again, reject the old models again, and move to the new ones. Then again, you will have tension and a feeling that you're going back to the first grade, and again you'll manifest all the qualities you have, and those are sensitivity to offense, anger, haste, loose tongue, or closedness. This is what we have from birth. As soon as we reach a certain level, we have worked through it, and we have none of these drawbacks until we're going on to move to the next grade. That is, generally speaking, we learn to read and write and a certain quality is manifested. As soon as we've learned to read and write, this quality is not manifested anymore. But as soon as we are going to learn to read and write in a different language, we face the same dogmas and problems that we had before. Yet, depending on to what extent we enjoyed doing it earlier, overcoming and admitting, to that extent the next time will be easier. But anyway, there will be overcoming. If we speak about all of us, I asked, why did you come? Well, everyone has come and can come up with any answer off the top of their head, like, I am getting married in order to, say, have children, or I am getting married to experience the love of my man and have everything normalized to an even keel. The most honest answer will be, I'm getting married because I have found the person with whom I have unison, with whom it is cool to talk, cool to have sex with, cool to go to a restaurant with, cool to feel good vibes with, to be in a positive mood, in development, in sleeping, in silence, in conversations, and I feel great in all spheres with this person. And even when we have conflict, we find a solution, because we are honest and we have rules to the game so that we come to terms about how we will live together. And as we were going to be together only in order to be happy and attain pleasure, every time we start quarreling and arguing, we decide first, either we are going to do everything to be happy and get pleasure, or we're just trying to splash out the negative so that later we can feed ourselves with that negativity. And as soon as you decide for yourself that you create personal relationships, doesn't matter with friends, your job, or personal life, only for these parameters, then these parameters start creating conditions for you to have a business partner, friends, and personal life. As soon as you try to compensate, like, I got married to get away from my mother, you did not run away from your mother. You got a mother amplified several times in this man. That is, when you start doing everything for compensation, there will be nothing good in your life because this lesson will be more difficult than the previous one. That is why specify clearly what you want. And when somebody asks you in what direction you are moving, just learn this by heart. Again, if you are interested in it. Happiness is emotional independence from the opinions of others and the ability to find something good regardless of what is happening around. Then, with your inner state, you form the reality in which you will live and all people will play according to your rules. That is a happy person. Happiness is not when you bought a car or a scarf, or you got married or a baby was born. That is not happiness. That is the statement of the fact that the event took place. Happiness is the background state in which you rule the world around you through accepting it, accepting yourself, accepting your rules, and accepting that it may go on according to your rules or not according to your rules. And as soon as you accept that it may go on according to your rules or not according to your rules, then everything will be only according to your rules or according to the rules that will do better than your rules. That is all. Next thing, pleasure. Some people say that the Russian word pleasure is related to a word meaning a virile member. I say, so? They go, it's awful. Well, let us make it so that all men were without penises and it will be much, much worse, I think. That is, why do we start speaking about whether it is good or bad? Have you noticed it is interesting that we agree upon, listen, we're all grown-ups, so I just have to wind you up. Or you are sitting, almost everyone is sleeping, yeah. Have you ever thought that when we call a virile member a penis, it's okay, but when we call it a dick, it's not okay? Oh my God, why are you using bad language? So, penis is not bad language, although we are speaking about that very same thing. But this four-letter word is like, how dare you? That is, do you realize we have created dogmas for ourselves? We have created frameworks for ourselves. We have created conditions for ourselves. So, this combination of letters is good, and that combination of letters is, oh my God. Come on. It is the same letters in a slightly different order. Some are missing, some are new, but oh, it's awful. Guys, these are just letters. These are letters in a certain combination. I used to be very nervous when letters were not in the combination I wanted to hear or see. It was my spirituality. I've already told you what spirituality is. It is when we limit events, situations, and manifestations so that they must take place within the frameworks that are acceptable according to the rules we live by, which help us evaluate and assess the world. And it does not matter whether we live according to these rules or not. The main thing is that others must live as we want them to live, because it will be convenient for us. For example, I want my child to eat a convenient wheat cream. Well, of course, I will not eat it myself, but you must eat it. I go out in a t-shirt and pants because it's hot, but you will be in a fur coat, a hat, and a scarf. It will not be comfortable for you at all, and you will sweat, but I have decided so. Double standards are very common with us, and it is still worse when someone corresponds to these standards. For example, religions. What is interesting about them? It is addressing the creator, roughly speaking, the one who prescribed the program where in the virtual reality we are now living through certain event, where this living through results in us experiencing certain emotions, including physiology with the hormones provide the effect of electromagnetic fields of various vibrations, and those vibrations are the source of energy on which various planets and new worlds are built and new living beings are created, which are just an artificial intellect formed by us, while we are an artificial intellect ourselves. Because any law you are using is the very entity which possesses a certain stream of vitality and is revealed here within the frameworks of that stream of vitality.